What is up, Gamer Army? Welcome back to another fun-filled, exciting episode of Psycho Gamer. I am your host, Aubrey, and today we're going to talk about Gamescom 2022. Is Arcade1up going to be there? I haven't seen anything about it, but they could always do a little show, kind of like what they did with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or even NFL Blitz. Now, what could we really expect if they are doing it? Well, we all know about the list from Gamefly. There's just one game left that needs to be announced officially from that list. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe first, guys, before we go into the video. We're going to talk about Time Crisis and some potential cabinets that we could be looking at for later this year release or possibly even next year's release. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Like I said, we are going to look at possibility of Time Crisis being announced within the coming weeks or even this week. And we're also going to take a look at some games that were kind of leaked, but not really officially announced earlier this year, up to and including a few blurry screenshots that came out just this past week. So EVO 2022 came and went. We know that they announced Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, I think if they showed this at Gamescom 2022, I think this would be a big hit for them, as well as NFL Blitz. We know they just announced those two games just within the past 2 or 3 weeks, and the world is still on fire from them announcing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, especially the fighting game fanboys that are actually out there. Now, your sports guys, NFL Blitz is going to look great in any of their man caves. So even if the gameplay is lacking on the late hits and a few of the players, the fact that they got so much of the game that they could actually release is still amazing. Now, Time Crisis is the only one of the games that has not come out yet, or that has not been announced yet officially by Arcade1up. Now, it is highly possible that they could announce it during Gamescom, or they may have to wait until PAX West. That is in the beginning of September. So there are still a couple conventions that could possibly come out that this game is being released, but I don't know. We still got some time. So it's still not announced, but these 3 games, the last 3 games we've been talking about, the Gamefly list said October 15th was the actual release date. So the fact that we are this close to having the last game announced, or the actual release for all 3 of these games, just right around the corner, guys. I mean, this is the end of August that we're looking at. This month has really flown by, and you guys have kind of been here with me when it comes to my videos. Now, keep in mind, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has not gone on pre-order yet. It doesn't go on pre-order until September 8th for $599.99. NFL Blitz, that's another story. That is already available for pre-order. So make sure you go and pre-order that game if you really, really want it, because that cabinet really does look nice. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 looks great as well, at least the design. I think they need to work on the skin a little bit for the control panel. I think a lot of people would really agree with me when it comes to that particular cabinet. Now, we're going to go into the rumor mill cabinets. So, first title that I have on my list is the original Double Dragon. Now, that was a rumor earlier this year because there was a picture or two that floated around. And a lot of people were like, is this coming out? Is this really happening? And then it died, and, the rumor mill just died on that one. They just lit a match right to it and just went up in flames. However, in a more recent video that I just did last week, Double Dragon 2 was actually shown off at this Arcade1up store that they actually had, where people could go in there and just play the game. It's like a little arcade. Now, the rumor is that it was a prototype cabinet. However, we really haven't seen any prototype cabinets being shown off in any other locations other than inside their actual offices. Kind of like your Def Jam arcade cabinet that really wasn't, it was just kind of a shell with a screen with a PlayStation 3 attached to it with Def Jam Vendetta being played on the inside. So it was a really cool looking cabinet. I'm not going to deny that. But the fact that they actually had this going, was this running on like a Raspberry Pi? Was this running on their actual proprietary type software and hardware? The pictures that are going around, it really does look like it was a full-on Arcade1up cabinet. What games could we see on that cabinet if it does come out? I mean, this is where the rumor mill really is going to fire up. Next game that John D kind of leaked that he was going to try to see if he could get the rights to, which would fit in perfectly, was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Now, that game did not see an arcade release, but when you start looking at the likes of the cabinet behind me, Ninja Turtles Arcade, I mean, it's just one of those games that would make sense. Then they could actually have a cabinet with at least 3 games on it instead of only 2. As much as I like the cabinet behind me, it is going to have limited play, and I think Shredder's Revenge would be a perfect fit for this cabinet. Now, this would be huge if they showed something like this. I've already even announced it during Gamescom. Heck, it would be big if they even announced it at E3. Oh my goodness, imagine the amount of people that would go crazy over that. Now, the other game that I'm talking about is going to be that Ninja Turtle XL cabinet that we saw that kind of was leaked out in an interview video last month. I don't think that one's really going to necessarily come out, but it is always good to hope. Because, why? Because when you look at the pictures in that video, the control deck was very thick. It was thicker than any of the other control decks that they've released on any other cabinets. And, you know, it makes me question, why was the control deck so big? Were they just kind of working on a MAME cabinet? Or was that a super prototype? Were they really just testing the waters? They had there's a lot of what ifs that were in that particular cabinet. I would call it a MAME cabinet more than anything else because of some of the things they had, like USB support and such. Now, we did recently just see a few pictures that got released that were very blurry, but you can make out what a lot of these titles were. There's about 3 or 4 cabinets here. Now, they are new head-to-head cabinets that we really saw. So we saw a picture of the Marvel Superheroes cabinet, which, looking at these, it looks like they are trying to redesign their actual cabinets. Now, before the head-to-head cabinets, if you're not familiar with them, they're kind of a boxy kind of rectangular look. Now, it looked like they took the old-style head-to-head cabinets from back in the 80s, and they cut a little notch in them so you can kind of see your controllers and your joysticks, just so you can figure out what you're doing in case you're not really great on your hand-eye coordination. Some people, they have to look down to actually use their hands. I've seen it happen. You know, you see little kids are like, they're all over the place with joysticks and such, and PlayStation controllers and Xbox controllers, and they're just flipping all over the place because they can't figure out what the heck they're doing because their brain's not registering what they're seeing. So it takes a lot of practice to do that. Now, with them cutting these notches in their cabinets, it's giving them the ability to actually see what they're doing when it comes to some of these games. Now, a couple of the games they did announce, or not announce, but that they did show off in these pictures, was a Marvel Superheroes head-to-head cabinet, Capcom Legacy Street Fighter 2 head-to-head table, and also a new Pac-Man head-to-head table as well. Now, they look like they were pretty much all done already, but these ones, they were shaped a little differently. Like I said, instead of being the rectangular one, they're kind of round. They were kind of rounded, with obviously the ends being flat with little notches cut out so you can get to the control deck. Now, a couple things that really stood out in the pictures was they have drink holders in them. There's like 4 drink holders, 2 on each side that people could just put like a soda or a bottle or something like that in there. And it would make it a little more versatile and not as easy to really spill stuff. It kind of holds it in place. Imagine if they had that when we were coming up for the, you know, your Miss Pac-Mans and Galagas and things like that whenever you went to Pizza Hut. So they are ditching that rectangular look from the looks of this. So it would be interesting to see if these are going to be official cabinets that they're going to release, or at least a brand new design. I do like the new design. Now, a couple other pictures that I know would never come out is there was a Sonic the Hedgehog cabinet. It was a 3/4 cabinet with a riser. It was bright yellow. Again, you could tell it's Sonic the Hedgehog even with it being as blurry as it was. However, Sonic the Hedgehog never had an official release in the arcades. Now, they had like Sonic Riders and a couple of other Sonic the Hedgehog type games, but they were never the actual Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, or 3 that were released in an actual arcade setting. That would be kind of cool. But I personally, my opinion, I think that those are custom cabinets that maybe they might have been playing around with to see if people might like the looks of them. I don't like the bright yellow myself. Maybe that's me. Now, there was a Tapper game in there that had a mini fridge, which that's definitely not going to come out. That's going to be way too costly for anybody to make, other than people who really want to mod their own stuff. So I think those two cabinets in the one picture are going to be a no-go. So last couple games that were kind of rumored earlier this year, Track and Field, we never saw anything really come out of that one other than, you know, the couple of pictures that we saw that came with the actual stool. Paperboy, which I believe was rumored back in 2021 when John D went on a drunken rampage on Twitter and started making people question games that might be coming out. So I think it would be cool to see a Paperboy cabinet come out with the actual bicycle handles in there to actually steer around with, because that was actually a fun game. But the question is if none of these games are announced during Gamescom, what's the possibility of them being announced during PAX West? I don't know. That's a very good question. What do you guys think? I would love to hear your feedback on some of these games, guys. Post it down below when you think they're going to announce Time Crisis and what could we be seeing in the future. I am going to do a future video for possible games that we could be looking at for 2023 from Arcade1up. So I appreciate you guys coming out and checking out my video and listening to my rant, because there are a lot of really good things that are coming out from Arcade1up, and they're just getting better. Yes, their customer service in the past wasn't the greatest, but a lot of people are really liking their customer service much more now. So I got to give you guys props. A lot of your customers will as well. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe, guys. Stay tuned for the next episode of Psycho Gamer. Until then, game on.